Come with me now. This is Kali, a fox. He is the prince of the avians, Rodor. Rodor! Rodor!
Africa Day commemorates the foundation in 1963 of the Organization of African Unity, the forerunner for African Union.
The Fenty are in Africa and they officially launched in the country. How amazing is that we are among the few African countries that have been chosen by Rihanna herself.
But is the second Kenyan manze to surpass 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Tufanye ile kitu ama ni aje?
The winner of Survivor 42, Marianne. That's 5, that's enough. Here we go. Come on over, jury. Come on over.
The winner goes by the name Marianne Okech, and she is actually the second black woman to ever win this show. I mean, 42 seasons later.
Sweet, sweet love, you're my sweet, sweet love, you're my...
Mpambe Gibson Gadho Mbugwa almaarufu prosecutor kwenye kipindi Ukipendacho Vioja Mahakamani kwenye runinga ya KBC Channel 1 anaomba usaidizi wako kudhibiti gharama ya matibabu ya figo. Jamaa na marafiki wameandaa mchango mnamo tarehe 11 mwezi ujao wa 6 kwenye ukumbi wa Charter Hall, jumba la City Hall jijini Nairobi. Waweza kutuma mchango wako kwa paybill number 247247, nambari ya akaunti 777626. Gibson amekuwa mwandani wako na wangu kwa muda usiopungua miaka 40 sasa. Ni zamu yetu nasi tuwe wandani wake wakati huu mgumu.
Kupata lazima nishike kama sikiza tune yako. Bonyeza *811 *962 hash.
Lazima nishike mapema. Nisiposhika simu mapema utakasirika. Unajua mimi nikiwa mtu ya marathon najua niko na experience kabisa. Niko na experience. If you don't hurry, you will not break the record. Okay, wacha nishike simu.
Kupata lazima nishike, bonyeza *811 *962 hash. *811 *962 hash.
The Board of Trustees of Teleposta Pension Scheme and Fund advises all members that the 2021-2022 Annual General Meeting shall be held virtually on 31st May 2022 from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. The AGM proceedings will be aired live on KBC Channel 1 from 9:30 a.m.
Furahia maisha bora, linda jamii yako.
Asante. Hii ng'ombe itatoa maziwa mengi kabisa. Sasa shida ya school fees imeisha tena. Chukua hii. Hebu nikuulize, hii maneno nasikia ya bima ya elimu inaweza kuonekana mtu ana process ya kuchukua insurance kama yote ni rahisi. Hata niko na kaba ya gari yangu. Kwanza unajaza proposal form kama hii na uijaze wewe mwenyewe. Na kama haujui kusoma, uijaze na mtu mwingine. Hakikisha ile majibu umepatiana ni sahihi na ni ya kweli. Pia dhibitisha insurance cover imeangalia maslahi yako. Na usiwahi sign proposal form ambayo haijaandikwa chochote. Pia ukumbuke kujitolea photocopy yako. Sasa wacha nianze hiyo process. By the way, ukisubmit hiyo proposal form, uhakikishe umepatiwa policy document. Uisome na uielewe. Hiyo ndio dhibitisho ya kuwa unapiva.
It's 9 p.m. in Nairobi, Kenya. This is KBC Prime Edition. Good evening. I am Mboya, top in this live broadcast. Walter Mongare of Umoja Summit Party becomes the first presidential aspirant to be cleared with IBC as Wajakoa and Wairia grapple with compliance issues. The Council of Governors issues an alert over sale of fake cancer drugs as well as theft of drugs from public hospitals. Lawyers urge judiciary to mediate a truce between Office of Director of Public Prosecution and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. And tonight we begin a three-part special series on President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy project, running all the way to the 1st of Wednesday as Kenya celebrates Madaraka Day. Our sign language interpreter is Byron Abuli, our socials at KBC Channel 1. My Twitter handle at Tomboya24, and the hashtag is Prime Edition. Straight to our top story. The presidential candidate registration exercise entered its second day Monday, with Umoja Summit Party presidential candidate Walter Mongare becoming the first candidate to be cleared by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. IBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati says that 3 other presidential candidates who have so far presented their papers for clearance were rejected due to the signature shortcomings. This comes as Usawa Kwawote, party presidential candidate Mwagi wa Iria's effort to seek audience with IEBC over his rejection failed, as Kamche Meza reports.
Presidential aspirant
Walter Mongare for Umoja Summit Party is now ready to hit the campaign grounds after IEBC on Monday cleared him to vie for president.
Applied to the checklist, and based on that, we commissioned with issue, I as returning officer for presidential election will issue a certificate.
Mongare, who has been issued with a certificate, says it's a win for the youth.
This is not about a personality, but it's about the issues that affect us as a people. And many of you know that for a very long time, I acted as president, and I want to say that Moi is back.
It was, however, not a lucky day for Roots Party flag bearer Professor George Wajakoya, whose application was not successful after failing to provide supporters lists from 24 counties.
We are going to do it because you have witnessed that we have passed everything. Apart from one thing, anago kadogo tutafanya hivyo. Na Mungu akijalia, tutakutana tena.
Wajakoya, however, has until 2nd of June to rectify the shortcoming. Earlier, at the Bomas of Kenya entrance, Usawa Kwawote party leader Mwangi wa Iria put up a show demanding audience with IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati after his name missed out on the final list of presidential candidates.
We have the documents. They signed documents for 24 counties. Yesterday morning, they released a list. All of them were caught. They have all been aligned. The only name which has been left out is mine.
Accompanied by his supporters, Wairia camped outside the gate for hours, saying he has been shortchanged.
Mimi nasoma orodha, si mimi siko kwa orodha. Wanataka niote, then they say I'm time bad. I've told them no. Mimi nimewaambia mimi nitakuwa hapo kwa hiyo ballot. I know the constitutional requirement of contesting as a president in Kenya.
In the case of Mwangi wa Iria, on verification, the initial verification done, he had only complied with 5 counties out of 24. And that is on that basis that he was not invited to come for this registration exercise. And those records are here, which I think can be shared with the media.
Chebukati, however, says disgruntled candidates can file complaints with the commission. The commission takes a 2-day break before resuming the exercise Thursday. Kamche Meza for Prime Edition.
Now, Makueni Governor Professor Kivutha Kibwana, his Narok counterpart Samuel Ole Tenai, and Uasin Gishu's Jackson Mandago are among those who have been cleared by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to kick off campaigns for the August 9th poll. The three are seeking senatorial posts in Makueni, Narok, as well as Uasin Gishu counties respectively. Zainab Said reports.
Makueni Governor Kivutha Kibwana can now officially kick off his campaign for the Makueni senatorial seat after being cleared by IBC. In Narok County, Narok Governor Samuel Ole Tunai was given a go-ahead to seek the senatorial seat on a new DA ticket in August polls. Jackson Mandago of Uasin Gishu was also cleared to seek the Senate seat in the polls.
Siasa ya amani na watu wote wapatiwe nafasi wachague wale viongozi ambao wanataka.
Kama wewe utachukua jukumu kwenda kupiga kura ile serikali ambayo unataka, wewe unataka nani apige hiyo kura ndio serikali iundwe ambayo itatekeleza sera ama mahitaji ambayo wewe kama Mkenya unahitaji.
While in Baringo, Senator Gideon Moi was cleared to defend his seat.
Niombe nyinyi kwa unyenyekevu, entamunita apkei. Kwa mwezi ya nani tarehe ngapi? Tarehe 9, tafadhali unipatie kura zenu.
Elsewhere in Mombasa County, technical hitches caused delays in the start of the process as different parliamentary aspirants sought to be allowed by the commission to vie in the August polls.
Imara, tuko tayari kwa safari hii ya August.
Uchumi wa mji huu umeathirika pakubwa, biashara zimezorota, na nafikiri kile chama ambacho kina sera na kinaenda kukomboa watu wa Mombasa na kuwakombolea matatizo ambayo wako nayo ni ODM.
Kwa watu wana kiu, wanataka tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8 ifike kama kesho.
Same plight was experienced in Migori County with aspirants calling on the commission to sort network issues.
The system was a bit low and they had to verify all the supporters, 1,000 of them. We have done that. We have gone through it professionally and everything is successful.
In Busia County, the cleared aspirants have promised to ensure productive use of the county resources.
Accountability itakuwa kitu kidogo kwangu. Kwa sababu accountability unaweza ukaprint receipt. Ile nitataka ni transparency, watu wajue nini inaendelea wapi.
In Embu County, former Youth Principal Secretary Lilian Mbogo Omolo has been allowed to contest the Embu senatorial seat in the August polls. For Prime Edition, I'm Zainab Said.
And of course, IBC will be continuing with the clearance process after the short break before gazetting the names of those who will qualify. Let's move now into the corridors of justice. Legal practitioners are calling on the judiciary to mediate the ongoing tough wars between the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Director of Criminal Investigations. The lawyers say that the wrangle may prove costly in the investigations and prosecution of cases, and by extension, jeopardize the ongoing war on graft and violent extremism. Here is that report.
The tug of war between the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution and the Director of Criminal Investigation continues as the DCI, George Kinoti, now directs the DCI offices not to record statements in respect to charges or give any evidence in respect to the same. This follows an implementation of judgment where the ODPP is to take charge of signing and presenting charge sheets in court. On Monday morning at the Milimani Law Courts, only prosecutors will be spotted during the plea-taking session, with the investigating officers not in the picture. Lawyers now call for an amicable solution so as not to stall court processes.
Kenyatta can go to the Court of Appeal so that the Court of Appeal can pronounce it itself. If the Court of Appeal does not, they go to the Supreme Court. That's the work of the judiciary, to separate executive bodies or constitutional organs that have tough wars or that are fighting over their mandates.
Meanwhile, the Director of Criminal Investigation and the Anti-Terror Police Unit have backed a petition against the anti-terror guidelines since their formulation did not include the participation of relevant stakeholders. The DCA has faulted the guidelines created by the ODPP, saying the Joint Task Force and National Counter-Terrorism Center is independent and purely deals with analysis and have no expertise to inform the participants on the investigation of terrorism matters. Elsewhere, the 800 million National Youth Service graft case continued before Chief Magistrate Wendy Misheni as Joseph Mboya, banking fraud investigating officer, testified that the alleged 3 companies involved in the contracts do not exist. The 3 include Roof and Oil Trading Company, Reinforced Concrete Company, and Form Homes Limited.
There is no fresh charge sheet because
Finally, 3 businessmen, Rajay Modi, Pushpinder Singh Main, and Jofin Yogo, have been charged with perjury and false swearing. It's alleged that on the 2nd of February 2018, Nairobi, they commenced a meeting purportedly as directors and company secretaries of Galut Industries Limited. The trio denied the charges and were granted a bond of 500,000 Kenyan shillings. The case will be mentioned on the 9th of June for pretrial directions. Serafina Robi for Prime Edition.
Now, the late Rabbi Member of Parliament William Kamotei has been laid to rest in a somber ceremony in Kaliang'ombe, Rabbi. The lawmaker died in a road accident hours after presenting his clearance papers to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Kamotei has been eulogized as a progressive leader whose services will be greatly missed by Kenyans. Here is that report.
Family, friends and colleagues of the late Rabbi Member of Parliament William Kamotei gathered in Kaliang'ombe, Kilifi County to pay their final respects to the late lawmaker. Kamotei's life was cut short by a road accident on Sunday night.
Leo tu tuseme Mwenyezi Mungu ampatie ndugu yetu kauli thabit akienda mbele ya haki. Allah ighfir lahum warhamhum wa afwanhum wa askinhum fi janna.
Nakumbuka Mheshimiwa Kamotei alileta amendments, mabadiliko ya kisheria karibu 50, mtu mmoja peke yake, ili alinde mashamba ya hapa pwani.
Ya hali Kamotei ambayo liko nayo kutokamana na chama chetu, kwa uweza Mwenyezi Mungu, watu wa Rabai, tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8, rais wetu akishaapishwa Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, mumpatie mjumbe wa ODM kutoka Rabai.
Kesi kadhaa, kesi za mashamba ambazo alikuwa akifanya kama pro bono, anafanya bila malipo. Alikuwa kiongozi ambaye anajielewa na ana focus na anajua yuko bungeni kwa sababu ya nini.
ODM leader Raila Odinga, whose party had handed Kamotei the ticket to seek another mandate, eulogized the late MP as a visionary leader.
Kamotei alikuwa ni kama ndugu yangu mdogo, lakini mtu ambaye yenye busara, yenye akili mingi zaidi. Yeye kila mara kama amekuwa mshauri wetu. Mwenyewe alikuwa na maoni mazito sana juu ya mambo ya hapa pwani.
Kamotei was preparing to seek a third term as Rabai MP and had just received clearance to vie in the August polls.
Mimi naitwa Hari Mkale kama mtoto wa kwanza kwa wazazi wangu, na marehemu ni mtoto wa pili. Marehemu alizaliwa mwaka wa 62. Kwa hakika tulipata ripoti hizi jana usiku kwa mshangao sana. Sisi tulikuwa tunajitayarisha kulala kama saa 4 ndio tukapata.
Katika kipindi hichi chake cha 3 ilikuwa ni sana kubase sana mambo yake ya elimu, lakini katika technical part, kwamba sasa hii nimeshapeleka primary, nishamalizana na secondary. Hichi kipindi ambacho kimebaki nitafocus zaidi na mambo ya technical courses.
Alikuwa anaendea saa hii katika kipindi hichi cha 3. Alikuwa amesema madamu elimu nimeidumisha, nimeboresha vya kutosha, saa hii nataka nijenge Rabai Teachers College na nijenge KMTC Rabai hapa, ili watoto wangu wa hapa Rabai wasiende kuhangaika, wawe wako nazo hapa. Hiyo ilikuwa ni ndoto yake ya kipindi hichi cha 3. Jamaa.
The death of the Rabai lawmaker has sent the Orange Democratic Movement back to the drawing board, and the party is now required to pick a replacement for processing by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. The lawmaker is survived by a widow and 4 children. Michael Mwandiga for Prime Edition, Rabai constituency in Kilifi County.
Our thoughts and prayers go to the family. Now, Nancy Okware was at State House Nairobi, where Kenya and Sierra Leone signed 7 agreements bordering on political and diplomatic consultations, trade and investment, among others. The deals were reached following bilateral talks between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his Sierra Leone counterpart, Julius Maada Bio. Here is her report.
On Monday, President Uhuru Kenyatta officially received the Sierra Leone President Julius Maada Bio at State House Nairobi. President Maada, accompanied by the Sierra Leone First Lady Fatima Maada. The elaborate state reception ceremony included a guard of honor and a 21-gun salute. The two leaders later led their respective delegations in bilateral talks geared at boosting the relations between the two countries. 7 agreements were signed, including agreement on the establishment of a joint commission for cooperation, memorandum of understanding on political and diplomatic consultations, memorandum of understanding on trade and investment, memorandum of understanding on cooperation in the field of wildlife tourism, memorandum of understanding on gender equality and women empowerment, memorandum of understanding on cooperation in the field of culture and arts, and memorandum of understanding on cooperation in the field of youth affairs. The Sierra Leone president arrived in Kenya on Saturday for a 5-day state visit and is expected to be the chief guest on Wednesday during the Madaraka Day national celebrations to be held at Uhuru Gardens in Nairobi. Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
Well, that story brings us to our first break. Just a quick reminder, tonight we begin our special series on President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy projects, and it will run all the way to Wednesday the 1st when the country celebrates Madaraka Day. Plus, the COVID-19 positivity rate is rising. We'll be back with the details.
Fair at Wembley with 1 or 2 little differences. The 2 teams were presented to Lieutenant General Platt, East Africa C&C. The match was the police versus the prison warders, and a large crowd arrived to watch it, hoping they'd both lose. It seems a bit strange to be watching a football match between teams with no boots on, but we may be reduced to it ourselves before the war's over. Anyhow, they play pretty good football, and here comes a goal. There's one advantage in playing without boots. A hack on the shins is not so serious, but oh boy, if you stub your toe. Unfortunately, our cameraman forgot to tell us who won. He merely said the favourites scored the winning goal after a quarter of an hour's extra time. In a match between policemen and warders, there's a gloomy ring about that expression, extra time.
Wakati unapotunza upendo na utamaduni, ni halisi inakuwa tundo la maisha.
That lets you shine.
If you put a stop to this marriage, are you gonna step up and be responsible for her happiness?
You can't do anything bad with this magic. It's all about karma. You reap what you sow. Come with me now. This is Kali, a fox. He's the prince of the avians, Rodor. Rodor!
Welcome back. 70 days, 7 hours and 42 minutes to go to the August 9th general election. And Deputy President William Ruto leads his allies and says the Kenya Kwanza coalition will adopt policies aimed at improving the standards of living in the country if he's elected into office in the August 9th poll. Speaking at the Kenya Kwanza Economic Forum in Kajiado, Ruto said his government will prioritize solving challenges facing Kenyans as proposed by Kenyans. Gishuki Washira attended the Kajiado Economic Forum and gives us the details.
Kenya Kwanza Alliance is gathering recommendations from Kenyans on how to solve challenges that inhibit the economic growth.
Mwisho wana mahitaji kufuatilia.
Deputy President William Ruto leading the discussion in Kajiado County, where traders, farmers and pastoralists aired their grievances and suggestions.
Wamama wa soko, tunajaribu sana kusomesa watoto wetu. Na tayari tumewasomesa. Naibu wa rais, tukisomesa watoto, mtu hata akimaliza university, unashindwa unapeleka huyu mtoto wako wapi? Anakufuata kwa soko, anaenda kuwa beba pale.
Na yale matatizo tuko nayo sasa, we need new ideas to deal with the challenges we have at the moment.
The Deputy President promising to work with county governments in prioritizing proposals given during the economic forum if elected president.
Shida ni kwamba number 1, hamuelewi shida ambayo inakabili taifa letu la Kenya. Ya pili, hamuna mpango yeyote ya kutatua haya matatizo kwa sababu kwanza hamuelewi. Alafu namba ya 3, mumekuwa siasa miaka 40. Lakini hamuna track record ya kufanya kitu yoyote.
The Kenya Kwanza's presidential candidate challenged their competitors Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party to implement policies that will improve the lives of Kenyans.
Na mimi nataka niwaambie, our competitors hawawezi kuketi chini vile tumeketi chini na nyinyi, because hawana track record ya kutimiza kitu yoyote.
The Kenya Kwanza's Economic Forum later toured Taita Taveta County, where Ruto and his co-principals Musalia Mudavadi of Amani National Congress and Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula exuded confidence of forming the next government. Gishuki Washira, Prime Edition.
Now, the Council of Governors, COG, is raising the red flag over the increasing sale of, believe it or not, fake cancer drugs to unsuspecting patients. They're also worried of the theft of drugs from public institutions. Just last week, 6 members of staff at the Kenyatta National Hospital, remember, were charged in court for stealing cancer drugs worth 4.6 million shillings. The COG, through its health committee chairperson, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, are now, among others, calling for a review of the management at Kenyatta National Hospital after it emerged that the stolen drugs were actually being taken to a facility owned by a senior staff. Yusuf Farah brings us that, well, puzzling story.
Council of Governors Health Committee Chairperson Professor Anyang' Nyong'o noted theft of medical supplies was rampant in the Kenyatta National Teaching and Referral Hospital Private Wing, Intensive Care Unit and Cancer Center.
It can be done more efficiently by making sure that the transmission is governed electronically, so that when drugs leave the pharmacies to the wards, it is something that can be followed without any human error.
The systems at KNH do require some sort of audit, because that is where a majority of the patients have been going. And when we have drug stockouts, when we have constant breakdown of radiotherapy machines, it is very, very unfortunate, because the minute a cancer patient misses their chemotherapy or radiotherapy session, then it becomes that much harder to treat the disease.
Concerned by the increased sale of fake cancer medicine in the market, the Council of Governors now wants the Ministry of Health to thoroughly vet staff at the country's largest referral hospital and private facilities to ensure there is no conflict of interest.
The culprits have not been punished, notwithstanding some report that people in ICU have been denied their medicine and counterfeit medicine given to them in this premier hospital in the Republic of Kenya.
Our patients have actually been talking about sometimes the wrong drug being used or drug stockouts.
COG further calling on additional investment in human resources, especially cancer specialists for the diagnosis and treatment of the disease. A report by the Kenyan Network of Cancer Organizations puts cancer as the third leading cause of death in the country, with an estimated 42,116 new cases and 27,092 deaths annually. Isofar reporting for Prime Edition.
Well, on to that feature that we had promised you, the standard gauge railway, the Lamu Port, and the expressway right here in Nairobi, Kenya, are some of the key infrastructural projects that President Uhuru Kenyatta would be remembered for. Here is our reporter, Regina Manyara, with the details.
The Standard Gauge Railway is one of the biggest infrastructural projects that President Uhuru Kenyatta will be remembered for. It is under his administration that Kenya negotiated for the funding of the project, which involved the Chinese government funding 90% of the project, with Kenya availing the remaining funds, which were from the Railway Development Fund (KITI) that saw imports attract a 1.5% levy. Construction of the first phase of the project between Mombasa and Nairobi started in December 2014 and was completed in 2017, with President Kenyatta officially commissioning the passenger service dubbed Madaraka Express in May of 2017. Construction of the railway opened up new areas to investment, with 8 railway stations comprising of Mariakani, Voi, Mtito Andei, Sultan Hamud, Athi River, Emali, Miasenyi and Kibwezi that highlighted the different cultures of the inhabitants. The passenger line has remained popular among commuters, that most of the times passenger trains are usually fully booked despite increasing their frequency from 1 to 3 trips daily, either direction between Nairobi and Naivasha. Phase 2A of the Standard Gauge Railway project involved extension of the railway from Nairobi to Naivasha. Latest data shows that 2 million passengers were ferried via the Madaraka Express service last year. Cargo services on the Standard Gauge Railway were officially commissioned in June 2017, and volumes have grown to 5.4 million tons of cargo hauled on the SGR last year.
And so, as we evaluate now the performance of the extended line from Nairobi to Naivasha, we shall also assess when we can now extend the line beyond Naivasha to Kisumu and to Malaba.
Its operationalization also saw 2 inland container depots set up in Embakasi and Naivasha to reduce congestion at the port of Mombasa and fast-track cargo clearance.
In terms of business impact, it will be massive. And I'm sure in terms of cost reduction, in terms of time reduction, the business community will be the biggest beneficiary.
In addition, President Kenyatta's government will be remembered for rehabilitation of the old meter gauge railway. Hills and plains, it left a trail, one characterized by settlements and towns along the railway route and its destination. Branch lines were built to Thika in 1913, Lake Magadi in 1915, Kitale in 1926, Narumoru in 1927, and from Tororo to Soroti in 1929. The Nairobi commuter service line was commissioned, helping ease traffic congestion, while the Nairobi-Nanyuki ease cargo transport and movement of people, especially tourists visiting tourist sites in central Kenya. Rehabilitation of the Naivasha-Kisumu meter gauge railway was also done and started service late last year, much to the excitement of those travelling to the lakeside city.
I think it's also cheaper than the road transport. It is slightly longer, but safer.
Kenya's second commercial port in Lamu is another project that President Kenyatta will be remembered for. The project aims at positioning Lamu as a regional transshipment hub.
Let us therefore not shy to celebrate this great achievement of operationalization of this port, which supports our Big Four agenda and the Vision 2030 National Development Blueprint.
The government is constructing the first 3 berths, the first of which was commissioned by President Kenyatta last year and has so far seen several large vessels calling on the facility.
We have 2 vessels which are coming in next week. Lamu Shipping Line will bring in cargo, about 50 containers from Zanzibar and Dar es Salaam. And then CMSCGM big ship will come in from Reunion that will come and load all those containers en route to the Far East.
Each of the berths at Lamu Port are designed to have a depth of 17.5 meters and a length of 400 meters. Commissioning of the Lamu Port is expected to open up the area to investment and development. Several road projects have been undertaken in recent years, but the expressway in Nairobi stands out.
It will have a very, very big impact in terms of mobility of Kenyans, visitors, businessmen, businesswomen, tourists. It is one of the best pieces of infrastructure ever done in Africa.
The project that was opened for use to the public in May 2022 is expected to reduce the time taken to travel between the 27-kilometer stretch between Mlolongo and Westlands by motorists who will pay for the use of the road.
We are doing the traffic monitoring, and combined with the automatic detection system, we are able to detect if there is any congestions in our expressway, if there is any pedestrian crossing, if there is any vehicle reversal in our expressway, and thus we are able to reach out to the responsible department to handle the abnormality on our expressway.
Other projects done under President Kenyatta's administration include Dongokundu bypass at the coast, offering an alternative route to the Likoni ferry for those travelling between Mombasa Island and the south coast. The 6-lane Mombasa-Kwajomvu dual carriageway that includes interchanges at Changamwe, Mikindani and Kwajomvu, the new Kipevu oil terminal, and the dual carriageway Kenol-Sagana-Marua Road are among other key infrastructural projects done by President Kenyatta's administration.
This is part of the 27-kilometer road dubbed Nairobi Expressway, constructed and operationalized during Uhuru Kenyatta's tenure. This particular road is meant to ease congestion within the Nairobi Central Business District. I'm Regina Manyara reporting for the Madaraka Day Special.
Well, the Madaraka Special Edition runs all the way to Wednesday, the 1st of May, when Kenya celebrates Madaraka Day. We take a second break right here on KBC Prime for Business and Sports. Stay with us.
Boresha maisha na bima. Kuwa na mipango mbadala ya sintofahamu za maisha. Gharama za ghafla za matibabu zinaweza kutatiza udhabiti wako wa kifedha. Bima ya matibabu hukupa utulivu wa akili. Wazawidi wapendao hakikisho la maisha mazuri na bima ya gharama zao za matibabu. Pata bima ili kuhakikisha yote yatakuwa sawa.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Africa Day commemorates the foundation in 1963 of the Organization of African Unity, the forerunner for African Union.
That Fenty are in Africa and they officially launched in the country. How amazing is that we are among the few African countries that have been chosen by Rihanna herself.
But is the second Kenyan manze to surpass 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Tufanye ile kitu ama ni aje?
The winner of Survivor 42, Marianne. That's 5, that's enough. Here we go. Come on over, jury. Come on over.
The winner goes by the name Marianne Okech, and she is actually the second black woman to ever win this show. I mean, 42 seasons later.
Sweet, sweet love, you're my sweet, sweet love, you're my...
Well, I hope that you've had a wonderful Monday. Let's now take a look at today's business news. My name is Caroline Jenga. Now, Kenya Airways plans to triple its weekly cargo flights between Kisumu and the United Kingdom mid-next month. The Fresh Produce Consortium CEO, Ojepat Okisegere, says the national carrier will also resume cargo flights to the United Arab Emirates and the Netherlands in early July 2022.
Direct shipment of chili to the United Kingdom from Kisumu are expected to resume mid-next month after a 3-month break due to reduced production. The projected chili harvest is sufficient to sustain 3 flights a week from Kisumu to the UK.
Grower that was giving us chilies exporting out of Kisumu went a little lower in terms of his production. But in the next 3 weeks, we expect that we shall have resumed. Actually, by 15th of June, we shall be resuming those shipments out of...
These as direct cargo flights between Kisumu to the Netherlands and the United Arab Emirates are scheduled to commence in a month.
Actually, we have indications that we are likely to even have more production, and so we are likely to have even more frequencies of shipments being uplifted from Kisumu.
Consignments to the UAE and the Netherlands will include avocados, bananas and pineapples as Kenya seeks to increase its horticultural exports that generated 153 billion shillings in revenue last year.
But for us as an airline, what we really look at is not so much the number, but more the volume. So if previously you are exporting 1 ton and you're able to give us 2 tons, we are happy with that. If we have more shippers, of course, we anticipate that the capacity that they will ship with us will be more.
This comes as the Fresh Produce Consortium has started a branding partnership with Kenyan foreign missions and embassies in Europe and Asia to market Kenya's avocados and bananas.
So we would like to turn this into a proper engagement that we engage with the world and just let the world upstake. And also locally, we want to let people know that avocado is an important fruit.
Last year, Kenya's avocado and banana exports were valued at 14.4 and 3.6 billion shillings respectively. Benson Ruba reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, crossing over to the tea versus dairy farming, where some smallholder farmers, that is in the tea sector, in Kericho are ditching the cash crop in favor of dairy farming, citing poor earnings from tea. This comes at a time when the government is encouraging tea farmers to diversify into specialty teas that include purple, green, yellow and white teas to reduce over-reliance on black tea, whose prices are relatively lower.
Kenya has the highest production per hectare of tea in Africa and is the 3rd globally after China and India, and is the leading exporter of black tea. However, farmers have in recent years seen earnings steadily reduce. This has seen some holder farmers explore other options such as diversifying to dairy farming. One such is Bernard Boyd, a farmer in Bureti, Kericho County. Boit, who had 5 acres under tea, has uprooted bushes on 2 acres to pave way for napier grass for his dairy cows. Data from the Tea Directorate indicates that tea acreage is at 269,430 hectares, with smallholder farmers accounting for the larger chunk at 163,310 hectares, and tea estates have 106,310 hectares. Boit began dairy farming in 2016 with just 2 cows, and so far he has 36 dairy cows.
Mimi nataka nifuke ng'ombe 100 alafu nikuwe breeder ya ng'ombe nisaidie watu wengine wenye hawajiwezi.
He says that while tea farming would fetch him 20 shillings per kilo, he earns 45 shillings per litre of milk.
Kwa vile bei ya maziwa saa hii cooperative yetu inanunua na 45 shillings. Saa maziwa ni afadhali na maziwa haina kazi mingi. Ukisha kama asubuhi na upeleke barabara, hiyo ni pesa.
He plans to clear the remaining 3 acres of land still under tea for napier grass to feed his dairy cattle.
Nilikuwa mtu ya chai na maziwa. Saa hii nimeanza kung'oa chai yangu nikipanda napier grass ya ng'ombe. Kwa vile nikipanda chakula yangu siwezi nunua chakula kutoka nje. Saa chakula yangu ndio inanitosha, inanilisha ng'ombe, ndio nipate profit kubwa.
The high cost of animal feeds is also one of the reasons he has opted to grow napier grass and maximize profits. Regina Manyar reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, this evening, the Central Bank of Kenya has raised its benchmark rate by 50 basis points, the first hike in 7 years. The bank's monetary committee says the hike is meant to match inflation expectations due to a surge in commodity prices. A statement by MPC has said the decision was taken because of elevated risks to the inflation outlook due to increased global commodity prices and supply chain disruptions. This is the first interest rate hike by the bank since 2015. Inflation currently stands at 6.5%, well within the MPC's target band of between 2.5% to 7.5%. The Kenyan economy is facing strong inflationary pressures due to a prolonged drought that has impacted food production, weak shilling that has crippled supply chains, and the negative impact of coronavirus pandemic. The International Monetary Fund expected the Kenyan economy to expand by 5.7% this year. Now, moving on, the National Industrial Training Authority has ramped up training of small and medium enterprises in the textile and apparel industry. The authority plans to roll out the training of SMEs in all 47 counties. The authority has started the training in Nairobi County, targeting 40 enterprises.
Kenya's earnings from textile exports hit 33.7 billion shillings in the 9 months to September 2021, a 31.1% growth compared to 25.7 billion shillings a year earlier. Currently, Kenya's textile and apparel industry contributes 0.6% to Kenya's annual wealth. To boost earnings from the sector, the government, through the National Industrial Training Institute, targets to upskill the capacity of thousands of young people in the industry to improve its competitiveness.
For the competitive markets, you need to improve your quality. What we are going to be calling it, because you already have some skills on the same, is skill upgrading. So basically, we are going to be targeting areas where you think you need more training.
NITA, through the Textile Training Institute, has already conducted a training needs analysis for textile and apparel MSMEs at Uhuru and Jericho markets. To address the gaps identified during the study, Gatsby East Africa and NITA have partnered in supporting a 3-week training program for a cohort of 40 practitioners.
The program will take 3 weeks to have the soft skills to enable them be able to, we also call them employability skills. They need to have the practical components, yes. Then there will also be an assessment and certification at the end of the program.
Speaking during the launch of the program, Director of Administration in Ministry of Industrialization and Trade, Joseph Bulut, says the training will boost productivity in the textile industry, while the Ministry of Industrialization will provide support in terms of financial services.
We are supporting in this program by assisting, knowing what they can do after they have been trained, so that they can have linkages, especially on finance.
The 3-week training will cost 700,000 shillings, with plans to roll it out in more counties.
Although the textile industry already has trained personnel, there is need to upgrade their skills to meet the market demand. For Prime Edition, I am Teresa Mutai.
Electric vehicles are regaining traction in the country and Africa as the call for climate change is being pushed, with several companies working on building these machines. Various charging stations in the country, such as EV Chacha in Two Rivers, is a move that is aimed at promoting the uptake of electric cars in the country. Could it be an alternative here in Kenya? Andrew Okero filed the following report.
The use of electric cars, or the hybrid ones that use both electricity and fuel systems, is gradually gaining traction in the country. The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, estimates that between 350 and 400 of Kenya's 2.2 million cars are electric. A major reason driving these numbers is the high cost of fuel.
Driving this car, you drive like a normal car. Gear is like normal car. Everything hapa chini hakuna kitu ati inakuanga imechange. It's like a normal car. The only thing inakuanga imechange ni that gari haina engine, ni motor. That's the only change. Brake, when you're braking it is kawaida.
Stephen Njuguna is a taxi driver in Roysambu who has been driving an electric car for 2 years.
Because right now as we are talking, economy imepanda sana. Mafuta size is 150 per liter. And steamer haipandi. So if I will use 300 for 160 kilometer, and those 160 kilometer nitakuwa nimeka mafuta almost ya 1700. So I think gari ya moto inaniletea faida sana kuliko ile ingine.
Despite the savings on fuel and low operation cost, Njuguna cites a major inconvenience in electric cars being the limiting distance.
Ukicharge unapata uwezi toka hapa uende nayo Murang'a. So lazima ikuwe ina run errand hapa hivi Nairobi. Just within the environment.
As such, several charging ports such as this one known as EV Charger are required along the routes, especially along long distance routes.
It's just one way.
Yeah, that's it. And when it turns green, that means the car started charging.
Okay.
So the charger communicates with the car and they agree, okay, the power supply is good, and it allows it to charge. And then you'll be able to see here on the dashboard that the car is charging. So with our chargers, from empty to full, it will take 5 hours or thereabouts. But that's with this car. Some cars will take shorter depending on the battery size, some 3 hours, some up to 6 hours.
Iadi, however, says with sufficient government support, they can have more electric vehicles on the road.
You know, the government is the one who sets the rules in terms of taxing, especially with electric cars. So they have tried, and for excess charge, you get 10% as opposed to 25%. Not as much as some other countries, which is zero tax for electric cars. That would promote people to buy electric cars. And also just charging infrastructure.
The growing popularity of electric cars, especially among saloons, could see this technology leveraged on other modes of transport, such as motorcycles and even public service vehicles.
The electric cars, such as this one, have gained popularity in the West and are slowly penetrating into the local market here in Kenya. It remains to be seen whether more Kenyans will embrace the electric motors over the existing fuel-driven cars, or this is just overstretched entrepreneurial facade. Andrew Okero, Prime Edition in Nairobi.
Thank you, Andrew, for that amazing report there. on electric cars. Now, commercial lenders saw their pre-tax profit jump to 78.5% in 2021 as the economy recovered from the COVID-19 scourge. Now, the Central Bank of Kenya's annual report for 2021 says profit before tax hit 197 billion shillings compared to 121.7 billion shillings in a similar period in 2020. CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge says the banking sector assets base grew by 11% to 6 trillion shillings in 2021 from 5.4 trillion shillings in 2020.
According to the report by Kenya's Apex Bank, there are 9 large banks in the country with a combined market share of 74.76%, 8 medium banks with a market share of 16.41%, while 22 small banks control 8.82% of the market share. The report indicates that the sector recorded strong capitalization levels as a result of retention of profits and additional capital injections. Equity Bank Group was the first to cross the 1 trillion shillings Rubicon after the acquisition and integration of its business with Banque Commerciale du Congo in December 2020, eclipsing KCB Group as the largest bank in Kenya in terms of asset value. Coop Bank, which acquired Jamii Bora 2 years ago and renamed it Kingdom Bank, saw its total assets grow to 597 billion shillings in the first 3 months of this year, an 8% growth from 552.9 billion in the same period last year. According to the report, the country now has 20 operating local private commercial banks and 2 local public commercial banks, which accounted for 68.3% and 0.5% of total net assets respectively. A total of 17 operating commercial banks were foreign-owned and accounted for 31.2% of the sector's assets. The regulator projects the sector to remain resilient in 2022 as banks continue supporting the post-COVID economic recovery. This resilience led to the sector's asset base to grow by 11% to approximately 6 trillion shillings in 2021 from 5.4 trillion shillings in 2020. The state of the banking sector in Kenya is set to grow and strengthen further due to continued diversification and restructuring of business.
Well, that is how we wrap up business news for tonight. Richard Munga is on the other end of the studio with the sports report, or rather the sports news. My name is Caroline Jenga. Have a good night.
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Well, before we usher in Richard Munga with the day sports, the government has set aside 2.4 billion shillings to help eradicate neglected tropical diseases in the country. Health Principal Secretary Susan Muchache says statistics show that 25 million Kenyans are at risk of tropical diseases. Muchache, however, noted that government is fully committed to exploring innovative ways to accelerate progress towards ending the neglected tropical disease by the year 2030. Here is that report.
Speaking at the Global Summit on Neglected Tropical Diseases, Health Principal Secretary Susan Muchache noted that the neglected diseases remain a major focus in the planned rollout of the universal health coverage.
Our determination to guarantee the best health for all Kenyans is further buttressed by the fact that our universal health coverage, the insurance cover, it does provide for the case management of a neglected tropical disease.
Mochache observed that the government is scaling up the mapping of the neglected tropical diseases to allocate sufficient resources to further step up and apply treatment where the cases have been identified.
We are in that process of identifying our burden so that we can make sure that we put the appropriate resources. As a country, we have allocated 2.4 billion shillings for neglected tropical diseases.
Health experts citing poverty as a major factor that has led to many Kenyans failing to access to quality and affordable healthcare.
Many times people who are infected or affected by NTDs are also affected by poverty because of the pressure applied to these communities by NTDs.
And indeed, non-communicable diseases are endemic across Kenya and primarily affect rural communities where there is low access to sanitation and to clean water. That NCDs afflict, unfortunately, the poor amongst our communities.
The global summit that is set to end on 1st June aims at exploring best practices to accelerate progress towards ending national tropical diseases by the year 2030. The government says neglected tropical diseases remain a global threat. Locally, measures are being put in place to permanently secure the population against the diseases, a program the government hopes to achieve by 2030. Jacqueline Masharia for Prime Edition.
Well, good evening. This is KBC Sports with me, Richard Munga. On to a top story tonight, whereby the Kenya National Rugby Sevens team Shujaa has been pulled in Group D of the final leg of this season's HSBC Sevens World Series that is set to be played in Los Angeles, USA. South Africa top of the standings with 124 points heading into the last round of the season, 2 points ahead of Australia, while Argentina completes the podium on 118 points. In the final round in Los Angeles, Kenya will play Samoa, England and Scotland in Group D on the 27th and 28th of August. The Kenyan team is currently ranked 13th in the series with 38 points after the 8 legs played so far. In the last outing in London this past weekend, Kenya lost all 5 matches, collecting just a single point. Meanwhile, the KCB women's volleyball team has qualified for the finals of the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations women's clubs after beating Kenya Pipeline 3 sets to 0 in the semi-finals that were played in Calibia, Tunisia. In the first set, KCB took a 25-15 win, followed by a 25-23 win in the second set. KCB went ahead to win the third set 25-12. Elsewhere, Kenya Prisons finished 5th in the tournament after recording a 3-0 victory over APR. Prisons recorded a 25-10, 25-19 and 25-20 set win, with APR finishing 6th. The finals will be played on the 31st of this month. Internationally, Veronika Kudermetova came from behind to defeat Madison Keys and set up a French Open quarter-final match against Russian Daria Kasatkina. The 25-year-old Kudermetova, of course, played Keys 2-1 of 1-6, 6-3, 6-1 to reach the last 8 at the Grand Slam for the first time. Meanwhile, while number 1 Novak Djokovic made it through to his 52nd Grand Slam quarter-final, easing past Argentina's Diego Schwartzman and setting up a clash against his nemesis, Rafael Nadal. Well, that's all we have for sports tonight, but just a reminder, tonight is when, of course, we crown the African champions. I'm talking about the CAF Champions League, where Egyptian side Al Ahly will be looking for the 3rd consecutive Champions League title when they take, of course, on Wydad Casablanca of of Morocco. Of course, last season we had Al Ahly beating Kaizer Chiefs of South Africa, and in the previous edition they beat the Egyptian compatriots Zamalek FC, meaning this, if they win tonight, that marks the third consecutive CAF Champions League title. For the results of that and other updates, be sure to stay tuned into KBC's subsequent bulletins. I'm Richard Munga. Do have a good night.
Well, thank you very much, Richard Munga. Thank you also to Karon Jenga and Byron Abuli, our sign language interpreter. Well, that's all we had for you on this day when Kenyan COVID-19 positivity rate rose to 3.8% following the confirmation of 91 new infections over the last 24 hours. The total confirmed positive cases stands now at 324,859. Well, on behalf of the dedicated entire KBC Prime Edition team, thank you so much for watching. Good night from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm Mboya. Bye-bye.
Kupata Yes My Love kama sikiza tune yako, dial *811 *816 #.
Mutiso, wewe nafanya nini hiyo? Wacha nieleza, panataka hiyo kitu. Panataka Mutiso.
Ai mbo, sasa hiyo tu unakuja unaanza kunizuzia kwa nini hata sijafanya kitu?
Wewe nieleza Mutiso, hapana leta hiyo kitu. Taka. Wacha nachukua simu. Hello? Yes my lovely. Yes, I did the dishes.
Kupata Yes My Love, bonyeza *811 *816 *811 *816
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Na kama hiyo ni njama ambayo mmepanga nyinyi wawili, wewe kama umwonea imani sana, basi mtafutie sehemu nyingine ya kuishi.
Huyo msichana wako atakunyonyora wewe pa kubaki supu. Chezi msichana college wewe.
Siwezi kuwa na dada mwenye roho mbaya kama yako. Una nia nzuri wewe.
Unajua mimi nimechoka kabisa kukuhurumia.
It's none of your business. Achana na mimi.
Tunataka nini kwangu?
Mimi kuja kumwona mwanangu.
Toa hivyo vitu.
If you put a stop to this marriage, are you gonna step up and be responsible for her happiness?
You can't do anything bad with this magic. It's all about karma. You reap what you sow. Come with me now. This is Kali, a fox. He is the prince of the avians, Rodor. Rodor!
other side, if you're all about entertainment, that is from 411, everything that has been trending, to getting to hear from your favorite celebrities, as well as all things in the world of entertainment, then this is the place to be.
Absolutely. Tonight we are eye on that energy, eye on love, you know, and the beautiful Miss V, eh? Hey, congratulations, eh?
Because of what?
Hey, man, this will proposed to, you know, last weekend. No couldn't invite, unfortunately, man.
It is not April Fools. Tulimalizana wapi pete. Acha kunitoa soko, bro. Acha kunitoa soko. Anywho, guys, I go by the name Vivian Dago. You can simply just call me Miss V.
Jack Muller, the party daddy, or you can call me Papi.
And you know
your girlfriend, go my number, man.
And you know what this right here is?
Grapevine, baby.
Pa.
What you gotta do? All right. The annual African Day concert went down in Lagos, Nigeria. This time round, Kenya was not represented, but we had the likes of Davido, Zuchu. How about we check it out, baby?
Please welcome first on the Africa Day 2022 stage, Drizzly.
The annual YouTube African Day concert went down over the week courtesy of YouTube. It is the third concert of its kind to mark Africa Day.
Classic, you don't know?
Are you ready now?
Oh, yeah. Driz. Hey, master, listen. I can feel like I dinner host any side where I dinner the planet. The good, the bad, all I got in provision for harness. By how you saw him and I fit you, they are sure we can find it in war.
Hollywood star Idris Elba introduced some acts virtually from London, with musicians D'banj and Busiswa hosting live on stage.
I must greet you all. I'm D'banj, or Ski Band like my Jamaican friends call me. Capella like my South Africans call me. Mensa like my Ghanaians call me. Frike. Osenawat Burogara Yawan. Importer. Oh, Busiswa, tonight's going to be great. And I am not alone. As you can see. And I'm coming. I'm coming. And I'm coming. And I'm coming.
The colorful event featured some of the continent's big music stars, with Nigerian Afrobeats acts dominating the stage, including Yemi Alade.
Make me fall forever. I feel like a queen when I arrive. I am saddle. Any day, anytime I go, be him ride or die. Yeah. Make up us your mind. Your mind. If you to give me all the salary,
The Lagos venue in Victoria Island also had Busiswa and Kamotei from South Africa, Drizzly aka Ben 10/10 from Sierra Leone, singer-songwriter Enos B from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Wasafi Classics Zuchu from Tanzania.
My guys, them are not the come straight. Bakala machine, make my eye chew. Many girl get, but now you I want to do.
The last act of the night was Nigerian superstar Davido, who gave an electrifying performance. Africa Day YouTube concert seeks to unite Africans in the diaspora, and people from all over the world in a celebration of the continent and its talents. Foundation in 1963 of the Organization of African Unity, the forerunner for African Union. The Pan-African body originated in the decolonization struggles of the early 1960s.
Kwanza Artist Collective was the place to be over the weekend for the Jam Concert Series. Now, this was the second edition, and our very own Jack Muller was present for it. Let's check it out. The second edition of the Jam Concert Series for this year went down at Kwanza Artist Collective, courtesy of Gote Institute and Aniko PR.
So the inspiration behind the Jam is actually Gote Institute's mandate and mission to promote Kenyan artists, to showcase dope talent, fresh talent, emerging talent, some legendary. So it's all about supporting the industry, uplifting the industry. The Jam has been there already, but this year's concert series started last month. This is the second one. And yeah, I'm happy to be part.
This time round, it was all about great music and great artist performances. The main agenda of this event was supporting the Kenyan sounds, as well as embracing the live acoustic performance. Ima, the super talented female artist, was the first artist to grace the show. With her lovely voice and dope energy, she engaged the crowd, lifting up everyone's mojo. Next was Akoth Jumadi, who took over the stage on a high note, leaving her fans yearning for more of her music.